Hi guys, this is the Bangalore podcast, and we are a bunch of guys who are ever curious and we want to get out there and ask stupid questions to smart people. And we want Bangalore to answer. And this podcast is all about that. And if you are curious like us too, and if you're a Bangalorean, this is a good place to be.
All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Bangalore podcast, and we are live. So, we started off this episode basically. We started off the whole entire Bangalore podcast through our guest that we have today, and unfortunately, because we couldn't get through, the editing, and like it was more like a beginner's mistake, so we almost screwed it up. So I think Uncle has taken a lot of. He's let go of the earlier mistakes and he's let us come through for another podcast. And I want to before I start off, I want him to introduce himself because I think it's better off if I let him introduce himself because I want you guys to listen to him from his perspective, what he wants to say to you guys. So hi Uncle, welcome to the podcast, and just a brief introduction about yourself.
Yeah, hi. Sakshat, thank you for inviting me
Hey, no problem.
for your podcast. I am Nambirajan. I am working in the Archaeological Survey of India under the Ministry of Culture, and I am, working as a Joint Director General in the department, and I have completed 33 years of service in the department. Basically, an archaeologist, and so for the last 33 years we have been doing some field work, a lot of field work too, in fact, on a lot of aspects of archaeology. And yes, so whatever I could contribute, I'm happy. And let us discuss as we progress.
Yeah, like I wanna get to the point. I like somebody who's listening. I want you to tell them how does how does your day go about?
In the
What's
field,
an average in an average day of an archaeologist?
in the field we start early because
How does early being help?
because in the summer particularly we can't work in the daytime after
Right.
11 o'clock, so we
Yeah.
start around 6:30 in the morning.
Uh-huh.
We go to the field and whether it is exploration or when we do excavations,
Right.
we start off early, maximum by 7 we are actually start the work, and we move from 6:30 onwards, and we take a break by around 11, depends on the season we are working. If it is say March April, we close around 10, and if it is say July August, we work up to 11 o'clock. We take 2 or 3 hours break. Again we start around 2:33 when the sun goes down a little bit, and we work up to 6 o'clock.
Right. But like it's because you're because it's hot and you are
Yes,
you
we
have to
cannot
look
work between
ahead
yeah.
of the conditions
Yes,
and
yes. The field season is limited because in India it's different climatic conditions. So
Right.
with every region that working hours differs.
so every year you already think a bit
Yes,
before
yes.
so that you can get to
The
plan.
regular season is from September to say April.
Okay.
So May June we cannot work. It's too
Rainy.
hot.
Huh.
And June onwards, particularly in the west coast, the rainy season starts, so we cannot
But
work.
doesn't isn't there would there be any like a positive thing of working if it's rainy, like some kind of
No,
better
no, no.
discovery?
Rainy season we
it's
can't.
it's no use.
No, we
No
cannot work. We cannot explore also. We cannot do any excavation also. So the normal season all over the country, it is
Uh-huh.
September to April.
So you already plan ahead for 2-3 years, or is it how does the
No, when we
Goes on
identify
project?
a site,
Mhm.
if the big site, we plan it for 3 years. If it is
Okay.
a small site, we plan for 1 year
how,
only.
how do you go about identifying a site and what goes?
See, everything starts with library work.
Mhm.
So if you identify a region that I am going to work in particular district or particular taluka in a state,
Uh-huh.
so first you go to a library and
This is
do a lot
interesting.
of research and find out what are the works done earlier in that region first.
Oh, very
So
interesting.
you should know
Your research.
where I am going to work, what is the background, whether it is potential or not,
Right.
before actually going to the field. So you read a lot of old
Materials, information.
travel logs,
Oh.
regional literature. It may be in English, it may be in the local language also, publications. Then you read the maps. Survey of India has got maps for all over the country. They have prepared inch maps. Every inch of the land, they have mapped it. So they have, if there is a temple, they have given a mark, a symbol on the topo sheets. We call it topo sheets. What the survey plans they have prepared. So they have shown the temple. That means that's historical site. And in many places, many localities, they have shown archaeological area. So these are the clues. That means though they are not archaeologists, the surveyors, they have identified some potential site there.
So I want to hear like an archaeologist's perspective on a general level of maps. Like I just want to know how do you approach maps and like the significance of maps in mankind and humankind, like how important and like how really important it is for
Before GPS
it was the
technology.
OG.
Yeah, how did you figure
Yeah,
out
that's
locations
it.
and all that?
So you thoroughly study the maps. As I told you, we should kudos to the Survey of India people who have prepared the inch maps,
Right.
and every bit of information is available in the maps. So they have mentioned clearly the archaeological area or temples or church, whatever is there historically in their point of view. They must have talked to the local people also, those surveyors,
Right.
and they have recorded. They have given some symbols also, and they also shown the elevations. So the elevations or the mounts wherever they are shown, they are very important for us. I'll tell you why little bit later.
Okay.
Why these mounts shown? No, they have shown the topography where you get the elevations like 50 meters height, 100 meters height, or 0 meters from the mean sea level. So these are very important, and we also refer to old books. And the even British period, they have written a lot of books, and they have done some reports also. So collecting all this information, reading the maps, then we go to the field.
So tell us like the importance of documentation and how important it is. Like you, as you said, like the Britishers and like what they've left behind, and how important documentation and like the information for us to be able to take that and use it forward. And you say you enter a lot of libraries, and like give us a little bit about the different libraries that you enter, and like what the atmosphere there is, and how like excited you are to like because I love personally digging in libraries. I love like going around and searching, because it's like almost like you can't find that on the internet now. Because for kids growing up right now is almost like internet is as big as it gets, but really like the true information is somewhere in the nook and corner of like a library.
I mentioned about the books, mentioned about the maps. Another very good source of information for us are the inscriptions. So these inscriptions are on the walls of the temples or lying in the villages. Many of them have been documented by the British themselves. So they have done a lot of good work by documenting and recording these inscriptions, and they are published. It's a surprise that though without knowing the language, they took the help of the local scholars and read the inscriptions in the local language and translated also. So they give us information that there was a temple there, or there was a palace there. So this kind of information is available in the inscriptions which are published. So these are the information you get from the libraries. Go to the libraries, read the inscriptions that are published, read the maps, read the reports. We call it archaeological reports published by the British themselves.
Right.
So there we should appreciate the interest of the Britishers in the archaeological
and
research.
they hold a bigger part of because
so,
they got
for example, the first prehistoric site in India was found by British geologist.
Which was that?
Robert Brucefoot. He found the first site in Pallavaram near Madras in 1863. So that was the first prehistoric or a Paleolithic site found in India. And he is not an archaeologist, he is a geologist. And after that, he has found hundreds of sites all over the country. So he is called even geological information he has documented first. So for you will just appreciate, and he is called the father of the Indian geology. And similarly, he is called the father of the Indian
Okay.
prehistory.
Yeah.
So that's that's the
Well-
kind of work they have done.
Okay.
They're appreciated by the geologist and the archaeologist,
Uh-huh.
at the same time.
Shashank wants to know what is the most interesting find in your career.
I would say without any hesitation, the excavations I have done
Uh-huh.
in urn burial site in Adichanallur in southern Tamil Nadu. I worked there for 2 years, and in my career that was the most outstanding work that I have done.
What did you find?
It is an urn burial site. Urn burial is urn is terracotta, made of terracotta. It's a burial pot.
Okay.
We have different sizes. We found around 163 burials at one place. There's a mound when you identify the site, and we did the excavations, and 163 urns, and we got around 43 full burials. We got the full skeleton of 43, and in many of them there were bones, not full, but there are bones in other urns also.
What do you think? Either when you did this research, what did you find? Why
was it most so significant?
Yeah.
See, Iron Age in India itself is a very vast subject. You find Iron Age, say, general date, I'm not specific to any site. Generally, it is believed that 1000 BC, that is 3000 years from now, before it's called, beginning of the Iron Age in India. It's a very, very general date, not site specific. And many other characters are associated, like black and red ware is associated. Painted grey ware, or the NBP we call it, northern black polished ware, is associated or very close to Iron Age. Of course you get iron. And in South India, the megalithic burials, where you get the various types of burials, like you get the stone circles, you get the urn burials, you get sarcophagus. And so in South India, generally when you say Iron Age, black and red ware pottery, the burials and the iron objects are associated. So but these urn burials, you don't get these stone circles. The stone circles are sort of boulders arranged in a circular fashion.
Yes.
So that you when you go to the site, you identify. But when it is an urn burial, you won't get these markings on the ground. So they are buried. So you need a little bit of hard work and a little bit of luck also to identify your site. And so this site, of course, the Taj Mahal was noticed by Alexander Ria in 1903 itself. He has done a lot of work. He has excavated also one part of the site. So he has not found this number of burials, and he has not excavated scientifically also. He just went and
started digging.
sort of digging without any scientific method. So all the scientific method developed after 1940s in India.
And what, like, how does, like, just a bit of explanation of
See, in
how
common parlance, when you say digging, like PWD digging for laying a pipeline manually, so you just go and dig. But in an archaeological excavation which is done scientifically, you go very slowly. You can't use heavy equipments,
right. So
whether
that
it is
you
manual or machinery. We use small tools, so axes or knife, etc. And we go down, say, 1 foot per day. Very, very slowly we go down, because we have to find out any pottery, any biological samples, whatever you get, you have to document and wash them, and we have to find out which depth you found this. They are all very important clues. At the end, when you sit and analyze the objects, so you should know exactly in what context in the site you found this pottery or you find this bead. Beads and all, if you tell the labor, they will not be able to know. So you have to train the laborers.
That all this goes.
And when you remove the earth, so we have to sieve them and see whether there is any beads, any coins, any small objects. Even sometimes, very rarely, you get gold also. So all these we have to observe. Only if you go down slowly, you will be able to find them. Otherwise, you will miss.
So for Adichanallur, how much deeper were they buried?
So as you mentioned, we go down very slowly and we observe a lot of information like the soil color, the soil, whether it is hard, soil is hard or loose. So if the soil is loose, means there is some activity. If it is hard, then why it is hard? Whether it is man-made or it is natural, part of the natural formation.
Landscape.
So all that we observe. Color is also very important. If there is ashy deposit or charcoal layer, we call it all layers. So then there will be, if it's a big site, there will be 2-3 levels. We call it layers or phases of culture. So all this observation, we make drawings, we observe, we write down, we make drawings, we make photographs. So every information we have to record as we go down. Everything we have to do. So when you analyze all these photographs and drawings, we have to refer to. So they will give you the conclusion. We can't conclude yourself.
You have to
Your
sit
conclusion should be based on this, your observations, photographs and drawings. All should correlate your decisions.
So like the process of these decisions take months. And like
Months, yes. Once you finish the
Field
excavations, you come back and start studying.
start studying. And that is
that's going
another
to be
part of,
part of it, because in this site you just observe and document. I found this pottery at this depth. And when you go back, you just analyze. You get different types of pottery. You get rims, you get decorated pottery, painted pottery.
Okay.
So all this you segregate, put them in the layer wise. That what you got at the top. In archaeological layer, what you get at the top is later, modern, later period of that particular site. What you get at the bottom is the oldest.
Okay.
So I will then, when you analyze, after sitting in my office when I study this pottery, what I am getting at the bottom, what are the types of pottery, what is the decorations I am getting that are old, that represent the oldest phase of that site. Then what is the development, what is the improvement in decoration, in improvement technology, making potteries or beads. So all this information, as you go up, it becomes evolved. Then again there will be a deterioration in the later period. So you'll know in which period the technology was at its peak, in pottery making, in town planning, or in bead making, whatever.
So has these been ever absorbed in other parts of India, or is it just
Everywhere, all sides.
in burial? I'm talking about urn burials.
Urn burials are mostly confined to Tamil Nadu and Kerala.
What are these?
Urn burials. I told you terracotta.
Inside pottery.
Burial pots.
People are buried inside pottery.
They are generally confined to Tamil Nadu and Kerala. And many parts you get, I told you, the stone circles, sarcophagus. Sarcophagus is again a terracotta, a sort of a chamber with legs. It will be designed like a horse sort of a thing. Then you get stone chambers. And they create a sort of a chamber with stone slabs. There will be a bed. On the bed also sort of a stone slab they use, and then 4 slabs. And there will be top also, there will be a slab. This will also have a sort of a door with a pothole. So the pothole is a sort of opening.
Okay.
So there are very many types of burials are there of Iron Age period.
What's something like some object that you like that's very interesting that you unearthed and you couldn't like figure out what this was, but then it was like that was like
From this site?
from your experience, from your entire experience, like
you see, any site you go after hundreds of years or after 1,000 years, and so you don't get every time.
Are these places available for normal people?
Yeah, local people know it. Local people know that there is some
But
site.
them living there won't change the landscape that where
They sometimes
then you coordinate off.
Yes. What I'll tell you, so when we go for field work, we talk to the villages.
Right.
So villagers, they know if there is a burial, they know it's a burial. There is some temple in ruins. I'm talking about ruins only. If they're standing temple, they know it. But if there are ruins like collapsed temple or collapsed palace or a burial site, they know there will be some local name like Pandagulis,
Right.
Pandavar they call it. So they say the Pandavas they came here, after that they came and stayed in their site. So they relate it to Mahabharata, Ramayana. So they call it Korangu Pattarai. That's where the monkey stayed. So, but if it's a burial, they are scared. They are scared to touch because ghosts are there.
Right.
So that fear protects the site.
Hmm.
They don't allow the outsiders also go and destroy their site.
Right.
But sometimes what happens when they do plowing or agricultural activities, they destroy the site. So some
And
people, some villages, they are preserved. This we can't say where it is preserved, where it is, but it happens.
And
This is
there
our experience. Some places they are well preserved because of that fear. They
and
don't
some
touch.
have taken a hit
Yeah.
over the years because
Sometimes not
some can be-
deliberately, mostly not deliberately because of the agricultural activities or modern urbanization, etc. But in some places, the treasure hunting is also there.
Hmm.
When they say some,
Right.
palaces or temples, the people come
Myths
and
will
dig
go around,
for treasures.
How many instances have you found?
It happens.
It happens.
Even in historical.
And is this generally it's true in or it's just more
No. They just
more
come
of a
and dig, but
story?
nobody will leave a gold and run away from
Yeah.
that side. And sometimes what happens, there is a stone, ready-made stone or brick is available. Even the villages, they come and take it. And they use it in their modern construction.
Mining just like
That stones are readily available. Why should they buy or
okay.
make a stone? It's readily available. So take it.
So people also want to know about Padmanabha Swami temple. Could you elaborate on what was found and
I can give you only minimum information.
It's
because
classified
basic
information.
information?
Basic
what
I can
people-
We have
because-
this is as much as we can get from Uncle. So I hope
because
hopefully
because
it's worth it for you guys.
the matter is still before the Supreme Court. So
Okay.
I can't reveal what actually was
But
found.
is it like crazy? Like you must be
What did you see that?
Um,
Did you see anything
see,
that blew your mind?
See, there are many cells as what is published in newspapers and media. You know it that there are lot of cells were there except one which is we have not opened it, and we are waiting for permission from the Supreme Court to open it
How
or
many
not to open
years
it.
this is?
And it's a fact that they got a lot of wealth. And
Okay, so somebody who doesn't know, can you just give a brief?
lot of
How big
everything.
are these rooms?
No, like a brief overview of what Padmanabha Temple
See,
is.
all
and
these
why is
are-
it so important?
No, see, these are all the property originally of the royal
Right.
family, and there are their own property. Plus, there many people and the rich people have donated to the Lord Padmanabha. So everything belongs to Lord Padmanabha. So it's actually a private temple. In those days, it belongs to the royal family, and now it has opened up for the public. So whatever jewelry, ornaments.
What
are
makes
there,
it so like?
everything a
significant?
lot of what do you call thing
History behind it.
jewelry, then crowns are there, bangles are there,
So,
of gold and other precious stones. That very
so people, how big were each rooms? Can you or estimation?
the
of the
rooms are
size?
not very big, very small chambers.
Chambers,
It's
but
part
like,
of the temple only on the
these
So-
forbidden places.
colonnaded verandas.
So, what
and
blew it up? How did people get to know that there is so much treasure inside? Like, what was the first
I think the
instance?
history behind
no,
it.
what happened? There was some local person who filed a case. The administration of the management of the temple should be taken over by the state government.
Mhm.
So obviously,
Instead of the private.
royal family objected, and so the court and the matter went from the lower court to the Supreme Court.
Right.
And the Supreme Court said, before taking any decision, let us know what is the
Right. What are we dealing with?
And so they said, let me know what are the jewelry ornaments are
So
there.
that's where you
the
came
inventory we
into-
started. The court ordered that our inventory should be prepared for the ornaments.
So that's where you
So
came
that's
into.
where the state government came in first to prepare the inventory of these ornaments. And it's a lifetime experience to see them, to handle them. And what is published in newspapers and all more exaggerated.
Yep.
They're all biscuit, gold biscuit. There nothing is there, but
Hmm.
everything
There is some
belongs to-
significant history
Yeah, there
behind
are
it.
bits.
Very interesting
So-
stuff.
And some of them are being used. It is not that everything is kept this thing, but
For the daily
much of
activities.
the ornaments are used every day also, and sometimes for important festivals and occasions, they are using it. That's the thing.
So the job of the archaeology department was to make an inventory of the thing.
There was a committee formed by the Supreme Court itself under a retired High Court judge
Okay.
of Kerala High Court. So under that, there was ISRO was brought in, ASI was brought in, and so we all were part of the team.
And you have to
Inventory. We have to say whether it is
have to
probable
open the rooms,
rooms and probable date.
and the rooms are open only for you.
Oh yes,
And
there is a
you
strict.
stepped in first, aren't you?
Not like that.
After
First
1,000
the-
years.
First the police will go inside. There's police team with us, and
They give a clearance.
the clearance, and because you have to see safety also.
Right. What,
and,
what can we expect? I mean,
No, I told
know
you lot of ornaments, jewelry, crowns, bangles,
just general, no explosives.
pots.
Just like booby traps, like Indiana
No,
Jones.
nothing like that. A lot of pots, gold pots, silver pots, lamps.
Mm.
So, இப்போ what is the scenario?
garlands.
It's
Now we have documented whatever is allowed for us to
Okay.
open. So only one cell
Mm.
is yet to be opened. That Supreme Court has to say whether to open it
Mhm.
or not to open.
And
Okay,
we
so-
haven't still don't know.
We have done description, photography.
You've already seen.
No,
No,
that
no.
is not done. The other cells.
Right.
So
right.
how many
So
cells
photography
are
is
there?
done. So we have given a report to the Supreme Court. Now Supreme Court has to take a decision.
How many cells are there?
I think eight
8 cells.
cells. One is
7?
yet to be open.
Okay. People want to know, is there any excavation which you could have been part of,
Which you wish.
which you wish you could have been a part of?
Yeah.
And why?
Maybe I would like to be part if given a chance of any Harappan site, which I was never part. I've seen a lot of sites, but I've never been part of.
Harappan, explain, what does it mean? Where are they from? Where is it located?
See, Harappan.
Just what makes it so interesting for someone who's.
See, Harappan.
should they-
Harappan civilization is one of the
Oldest.
oldest and one of the widely researched phase of archaeology.
Mhm.
And there are hundreds and hundreds of sites in India, Pakistan, Afghanistan.
Mhm.
So even everything is studied. The movement of the I won't call them Harappan. They moved from the Iran and all. They moved in over the period of time, and then slowly the Harappan civilization starts developing
Mhm.
over a period of time. It's not just one fine day you get this. And though you have this pre-Harappan, then matured Harappan,
Right.
and so you get everything started from Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. Since it was found first at Harappa, it's called Harappan civilization. Since it was found on the banks of Indus River, it is called Indus Valley civilization also. So after the independence, many of the sites went to Pakistan. So there are very few sites in India, and so the Indian government took a decision that we'll explore Harappan sites in India. So we, ASI, took up a lot of survey work, and we found hundreds of sites. And one of the most developed civilizations. Everything is almost near perfect, like the town planning,
Mhm.
the whatever pottery you are getting, the other copper objects, or anything
Wow.
you get
Uh-huh.
is near perfect.
So do those excavations and the inferences that you get from there, do you think like in the modern world we are are we implementing it, or do you think there is no connection between what is
in a matured Harappan phase,
Mhm.
whatever town planning you are getting, the streets meet at right angle, which
brilliant?
even in the modern towns you don't get. And every street will have a drainage, concealed
We
drainage.
don't have drainages here.
So how long?
So like that's
ago
what I
were
want to
this?
ask. Like, have we like progressed, or is it like
Regressed,
we don't
definitely.
we didn't like look back at
That's
like
what that we think that we are advanced. We have technology.
Yeah.
We have computer.
right?
We have
So like
satellites.
basic engineering stuff
Yeah,
and
no,
like
no,
things
they,
that
they are also well developed.
isn't that like
And you will be surprised in a matured Harappan phase. The brick sizes are standardized.
standardized?
So 1:2:3. So it is 1 is the thickness of the brick, 2 is the breadth, 3 is the width. It's standardized. You go to any Harappan
Right,
site.
crazy ISO back then.
So that means there is a strong authority was there
Right,
who controls and monitors
controls,
everything.
monitors,
How long ago was this?
Standard, regular, generally we give the date of 2500 BC to 1500 BC. That is 4500
Years ago.
before present, and to 2500. That is 4500 to 3500 years before present.
Uh-huh.
So
That's a general dating.
And so, supposing on a general level, if like let's say I go for a trek, there's nothing on the surface level. There's nothing on the surface level that is really that can like really a part of archaeology. Not just like on a general sense, like old temples and temples in probably Tumkur or like Magadi.
No,
there's
see,
no.
I told you that when we go to the field, we speak to the villagers first. We
See the
speak,
depth of.
yeah, whether they know anything. The old people particularly, they know the stories. Their grandparents must have told them there is something here, there is something here.
Right.
And even there is some mound. I told you about the elevations.
Right.
So when over a period of time, when a village is there, say for 200 years, 300 years, and when they leave the site, because of this accumulation of the settlement, habitation was there, the houses, the debris and all, they create a sort of a mound. So when there is a mound, then archaeologists always go.
Right.
Mound means the local people will say there is this is called some name they will give. Raja
It's like a
Rajan.
general mound.
Any
Like a
mound.
hillock or like a.
No. When go to this mound, we'll know whether it is natural or man-made. Plus the names given by the local people. They will give you some clues.
The name itself.
Every elevation
Right,
or something
right,
will have
right.
a name. You'll go and see, and you will get some pottery on the surface. And if there is a rain gullies over the period when the rain drains out, they will cut the mound. If there is any structure, bricks and all, you will come to know. And another important, I told you, the old people, we speak to the teachers in the village, and then this head, this thing.
Teachers too, yeah.
Cattle keepers and the goat keepers.
So
they roam around the villages, roam around the mounds.
I think it brings me to the next question. I'm sorry to interrupt. Like I, on a general level, like us people, like who wants to, who like trekking a lot, who wants to explore. So if I want to think like how an archaeologist, how uncle would probably think, I know, like no, other than normal, let me go eat there, let me do all that. I don't want to do that. I want to probably like think like how uncle would do it, not on a complete level, but that means that I should go to a library and like just like read a bit of a backdrop on what the place is. Then I should probably go speak to like the locals, villagers, and sit down and have a good chat with them. Is that the way you think?
Yes, that's a way.
That's a nice way.
And then finally, when you identify that there is some archaeological potential,
and like
then
the context
you walk,
to it.
You crisscross the site. So then you will collect these potteries, beads, and there is some structure. Then we document, and the general principle is that when you get these objects, document them and leave it there. We are not supposed to bring them and keep it in my house. If anybody does like that over a period, say 50 years, everybody is doing, he will be destroying the site. After 50 years,
the site, definitely.
Many people take that out of curiosity, or no, I have found this site.
Exactly.
The site, nothing will be there.
And I think I can follow that up with like, give us like the importance of preserving these places. The preservation of like archaeologies and like sites which are like hold heritage to India, and like the context of like how India has like a lot of these very old places versus places around the world. Can you just give us like an overview?
See, the difference is that India, the older sites, say prehistoric, it goes back to say 50 to 60,000 years before present. The sites like Pallava Mandal goes back to 60,000 to 70,000 years before present. And India is such a country where every village will have some historical or prehistorical site. You have such a rich heritage here. And obviously people are not aware. So the fear, wherever there is some sort of fear in the minds of the local people, they don't touch.
Right.
But otherwise, they, as I told you, they remove the bricks, they collect the beads and keep it at home out of curiosity. Then agricultural activities, then the urbanization,
normal activities,
infrastructure development, roads, they destroy the site. But general awareness is now coming up. But generally people think that heritage is not very important. Urbanization or development is more important than heritage. But we are trying our best. Now there is a lot of NGOs are also coming up. They create sort of awareness. ASI is also trying to create awareness, the state departments of archaeology. and these NGOs.
You can take live
I-
requests also.
Yeah.
Anybody can come on live request if they want to.
People are asking.
No, bro,
li-
they can come for a live video request if they want. Guys, if you want to like probably request, let's just request for a live video too.
Okay. People are asking the latest discovery or excavation.
Latest, I would like to say, outstanding excavation in the last 3-4 years was at Sanoli, done by the ASI, where they have found, it's at Sarapan site, where they have found part of a chariot. It's the first time we have found a wheel has been found, a stone wheel, and it's one of the most outstanding discoveries made. This is the first wheel we have found of in the Harappan period. So very important discovery. And then a lot of universities and Deccan College Pune, and they are doing excavations now. And in Tamil Nadu, Karnataka also there are some excavations are going on.
And what about like, since we are interested in music, like I just want to like have your perspective on like instruments, old instruments, or anything related to music from what you've seen. Any instrument or anything.
Art.
Art, yes,
Anything.
but like music too. Like I want to just use some random instrument which like I haven't like don't even know. Like
Dolak.
probably is there anything?
Tamte.
No, what survives probably like I don't know what could survive.
No, mostly you get
Remnants.
instrument in the sculptures and
The
in the of
depiction.
historical period depictions. Or
Okay, you can go into art probably. That like the importance of
if you
art
say art, you're right.
and how they tell stories about like.
Harappan period only, because you get
So that's the only available.
beginning I say,
Okay.
because you get some a terracotta image of a dancing girl. We call it dancing girl because she is wearing a lot of bangles. She's in such a posture and wearing a lot of bangles. So general term given is not in dancing pose, but we call her dancing girl.
Okay.
And then prehistoric rock art. If you go to, there are many rock art sites, caves, natural caves. Probably people were staying there. The prehistoric man was staying there, and then they are developed, and we find the paintings. They used with locally available steatite, ochre colored. There's stones and all. They make powder and make paintings. You find white colors and ochre. These are the two major colors. Of course, black, charcoal. So that's where you get animals, human, not in the perfect figure view, but they will just put line drawings sort of a thing. Then you get hunting scenes, you get animals. In some caves, you are getting the dancing scene also.
So is it
So-
like to be able to draw like back then, if to be able to think like them, like why would they possibly would want to? I know like artists would want to draw on the walls, but like are they like documenting what's around them and saying like this is like what I'm seeing in the
No,
universe and this
So
is
yeah,
what-
this
all
still
these
we
are,
are
like, commissioned
lot
works.
of theories going on. They say they
Vikings.
presume that they are hunting the animal. If you say that I'm presuming that today I'm hunting this, tomorrow they may get the prey.
oh, so
These
sort
are
of a
theories.
visualization,
Visualization. These are all theories.
attraction, law of attraction,
Some people say no, it's actual scene. I
Scene,
have hunted, or I'm recording
or
it.
to say like yeah, I'm gone for
And this is all beginning of art.
art and documentation of like
So, but we get a lot of information. So we get what are the animals were available at that time in that area. What are the things they were eating? What are the weapons they were using
Exactly.
to hunt the?
It's like picture speaks a
Yes.
thousand words. It's
So
more like
ah,
I can't write a book, so I'll draw a picture
that's it.
and
But they are beginning of art form.
beginning of an art form.
It's the oldest art form that's ever been in India.
There are
Any
some
cave art.
prehistoric sites. We get example of some ostrich egg shell with some carving that is datable to around 6,000, 7,000 before present. That is 8,000 years ago.
Okay.
So you get a carving on an ostrich eggshell.
Wow.
That was the earliest.
That
Thickest
possibly
calcium
means they
cells, no?
had
Some carvings.
engraving. Yeah. Some devices,
was it.
tools.
And you do you
It's a very very delicate object on that you are carving. That means
It's
they
some
have got the
sort
skill
of-
to carve on that. So some sort that is evolution. Otherwise, straight away you take
Yes.
so they must have done it on something else, and then they developed that method and doing it on Airstitch Excel.
People are asking, how is technology playing a part in this? What kind of
Mhm.
different technology?
Good drones and I don't know.
For research
we,
purpose also.
of course, basically we have this documentation means when we use drawings, and then the photographies came, then
Mhm.
photography evolved.
Any ultrasonic
Photography
stuff?
and
Uh-huh.
evolved, then that came aerial photography.
Hmm.
Before
This
drone,
was
there
probably
was-
10-20 years.
No, aerial photography came more than 50 years ago.
50
So
years.
using
But drones,
helicopters.
so
Drones-
same thing. Drones,
drones-
but you get to like use it way back than normal people.
So aerial
And then-
photography, you take a helicopter and go, but for
Mm,
very
now any drones coming in helping you guys?
that's why. After aerial photography came the satellite images.
Satellite imaging.
Satellite images are too technical because we cannot.
Broader.
The common man cannot interpret. You need help of an
Right.
expert who color figure
Topography.
and all that.
Mhm.
And aerial photography much easier to interpret for us. And now we have this GPS.
Right.
And then now the drone has come. So you get
And drones is probably 5-10 years?
drone 5-10 years, but we started using only last 1 or 2 years.
1 or 2 years, right.
And then for dating, again, technology helps in dating. Previously we are using only the comparative method, what we call tentative dating,
Okay.
comparative studies.
Mhm.
And then we this C14 and all that developed. So now we have this AMS method where you get more accurate dating. So technology helps
What
in
is
dating
AMS?
also. AM is more evolved form of C14. C14 is also bit, they give this plus or minus 50 years or
okay.
60 years like that. If they say the 500 or 600 years, they will say 600 plus 50.
Right.
Plus or minus 50, that means 550 to 650
Variance.
Yeah, 100 years.
calibration is there. So AMS is becoming very popular now.
And technology will play a better role. You think there is more
Of course.
possibilities
Yeah.
on documenting and like you
Ah.
passing it on to your
Yes, of course. And now this computer.
computers.
So for us writing a report or creating a better photographs or even interpretations, everything this AutoCAD and CorelDRAW
Hmm.
to help us in preparing a better drawings. And storage, of course, data storage is
Data storage and like so it's like someone who's studying archaeology, probably over the years I think it's even more interesting for them because like the work you've done right now is sort of like with the help of technology is even more significant, right?
significant. That's what. But when you go back to again British period, the way they have documented, even I have not done.
So how does that vary? Like
So they
it's
are
because they were
that's keen eye. That
Keen
I think
eye
we
and-
lack that. But
Ah.
even for example, even Robert Busfoot, a few years back, we tried to go back to the sites. We went back to the library, where whatever the description he has given, we tried to follow those descriptions to reach the site. Very accurate. He says that take a left at this place, take a right at this
And
place.
his eye to say
There will
how
be,
someone would should reach
so-
there. Like
So
how
even
do I
after
write it
100
down?
years,
There will
it's
be
still true.
there will be a mound there. There will be a pond
Oh,
there. So all this, such a
Crazy
clear-cut, detailed documentation they have done.
And his ability to be able to like document it in such a way that I leave it
Ah.
behind for
And
someone.
Yes, and
That's a-
without knowing the language, they must have taken the help of local people, local tribes, local guides. But how they communicated with them and how they recorded, it's really
So
excellent.
like let's say somebody studying archaeology, all the students right now who's aspiring to do that. So do you you're speaking to them right now? Like what do you want to tell them? Like heads up, something or like anything that would speak to them right now, so that as an elder, as someone who in the field, you can like this is what you want to tell them and you'd wish to tell them.
First thing I would say, we just talked about technology. Of course, the internet. And any information you want, you get it with the press of a single button. You
Yes.
go to Wikipedia or go to any other site. You get any information on any archaeological site
Research.
with description, photographs, etc.
Coming to that, how hard was it for
Hmm.
you?
But the thing is, I will tell them, the younger generation, don't depend on internet too much. Go to the libraries.
Libraries, OG,
Yes.
the OG place.
Because whatever information is there in the internet, I will say 80% reliability.
Definitely.
And it is not
It's
a
too.
it is not
It's
the
not that.
source material.
It's just
it
a
is
reference.
secondary
Mm.
reference taken from some book.
Not
Say if I create a website, I put my views on
views,
that.
and there can be typos
Yes.
and errors.
But if you
on-
go to a library, go to the source material.
it's meant to be.
Yes, that is the original material. The person who has gone to the site and published it. So read books and then interpret.
So in a
If you write a report, you go to an internet, download, copy paste, then you don't learn anything.
don't learn
Go to the
anything.
library,
Sit down.
understand what is
Definitely,
published about the
definitely.
site, and then go to the site.
Definitely.
Don't sit
And,
in front of a computer and interpret.
Exactly. And to elaborate,
Yes.
like, do you want to like talk a bit about like
Yes,
the libraries
yes, yes. Unless you see the site
and?
yourself, you will not understand. You see 100 photographs, you won't
Doesn't
understand the site. You will not understand what the temple features are. You go and see the site, go and see the temples, any
Okay.
site, you will remember it lifelong. That's one thing. Secondly, nothing like hard work. Hard
Definitely.
work pays in the long run.
And about curiosity and anything that, like, what do you want to tell them?
Over
regarding to
curiosity is also not good.
Not good. Don't
Over
like overthink it.
curiosity and hard work.
Hard work.
Sheer
Definitely.
hard work.
Definitely. Also, like, okay, like, I want to know, like, if uncle enters library, like, which section is he going to? Like,
That
where would I
depends,
find him in this?
No, that depends. On if I am working on say ionic,
okay,
I'll go
okay.
to that section. If I'm working on a temple, I go to this temples
Temple section.
section like that. Temple architecture. So depends on the work we are doing.
Was there any excavation that didn't have a conclusive answer, but later due to the proper use of technology, you got a better
You got
answer?
a better answer. Is there anything like that?
Anything? Yeah.
You were able to look at something differently with the help of technology. Drones, I guess.
You see, in archaeology, nothing is conclusive. It's a research.
It's a research.
So
It's up for debate.
yeah, it's always say any site I excavate and I give my opinion on this, my interpretation on that.
Right.
And any site I excavate, I don't excavate the site 100%.
Right,
Say
right.
if
It's a
2 acre
parts.
site is there, I excavate
Some part of
25% or
it.
30%. Leave it for future
Observations.
work. So my interpretation is my knowledge. What knowledge I have, I interpret.
Right, right.
So the other person may always contest it. It's archaeological research. Any
And-
research is inconclusive.
Right. And what about like places around the world? Do you like keep up with like all the news and like any new place around the world? And do you have any interest?
So far, in my area for not much,
Not much, yeah.
interaction is there, but if somebody is doing research on say Harappa and all, they have a lot of scope for that.
And have you like, is there any collaboration that people have come down from different
the
countries?
ASI does a lot of collaboration.
Yeah?
And even the university, they do a lot of collaboration.
right.
It's not
Okay, like Vandit has sent in a question. He says like, how do they determine like the food culture of a society? Like, is there any like where do you like
yeah.
any lens that you put on so that you can like on a general basis about the food?
As I told you, and when we after digging, we remove the earth and we keep it in one place. I mentioned that we sieve it. We can't just throw the earth somewhere. So we put some people on the job and they sieve whatever earth is removed, that's sieved. While sieving, you may get some small beads.
These beads are?
Beads of stone, glass, or semi-precious.
And how do you like know that?
Any excavation site will give you some bead. So if it is a big one, you will locate it by the color of it. When they dig, then they will just brush it up and see the earth. That's one stage one. Stage two, we sieve. While sieving, you may also get some food particles like charred ones. So that is called floating technology. The stage two is sieving. The sieved material is put in a water drum. So the earth settles at the bottom, and this any biological or botanical material floats. So we take it out and send it to the experts. I am not
Organic
working
one.
on botanical or
Mm,
biological.
like scientists, and it
So
goes to the lab.
So they find out that pick up charred this thing, food particles or anything. They identify what is this, whether
What
it's
are the eating?
food particle or plants,
Mhm.
seeds, all
All-
this you get. So they identify these are the food habits of the local man.
Any changes from
It
what
happens
we've
because say as you move towards the coast, you will get fish bones and
different-
all
ah.
that.
How do I know? Yeah, that's through dating technologies that you know that this
whatever material is they were eating, that has relation to the climate,
is
right? First is the food habit. What are the plants available in the site, and this has relation to the climate. So this is how we will build up. We just don't pick up objects, pottery, gittery,
Exactly.
but we also build up the food habits, the plants available in that region, climatic condition of the region.
Any odd thing that you're saying, like this is not supposed to be here, this is supposed to be
So
somewhere else?
So far no. What
Are
I
you
wanted-
expecting
I
that?
want to tell you another clue about the food habits is given by the pottery you get.
Mm.
There is somebody from the Deccan College or Baroda University. They are working on the food habits based on the pottery you get.
Mm.
In some sites you get only bowls, you don't get plates. So that professor has come up with a theory that the people were eating porridges. They were not
So-
eating anything
Right.
Yeah.
sort of food,
Fluid.
Fluid.
liquid sort of thing. So because you are getting bowls, you don't get plates.
Noodles.
So these are all interpretations. That's what I may agree, I may not
Ah.
agree, but this interpretation,
can
this
be
is
like,
research.
this
It's a
one.
research, so anybody can come up
Definitely,
with their theory
definitely.
with some evidence.
So like people from other countries, do they look at like the evidence that you sort of collect, and do they
Of course,
make their own
lot of foreign scholars, they every season they come and work here.
just to get a perspective,
Yeah, they take a project. They take a project on
actively
pottery.
take a
Yeah,
project
they-
from different countries,
Australia, they
Sure.
come from States, they come from UK.
and you get to meet them
Yeah, so not in my side, but any side they
Right,
can
right,
take.
right, right.
They can collaborate with ASI
They
or with
collaborate.
State Department, or they can do individual work with any Indian scholar. So
and the Indian system is open for them
Open
coming
for them,
in, and
yes.
like, wow.
Idu Mari, so freelance archaeology, is there anything like that? So suppose a guy who doesn't have a degree or is not in tie-ups with the ASI, if he goes, if he is interested, can he pursue a career? How is it for a
Is
freelance?
there a possibility?
freelancer- Actually, freelancer can do it. A lot of people, I told you, NGOs,
Mm,
they
mm.
are doing a lot of, they're more interested in historical archaeology. The problem
This is
they'll
historical archaeology.
historical, I will say that from 300 BC onwards. So a lot of people do it. They find inscription, they publish it, but the financial thing will be there. They may not have resources to do
Resources.
excavations and all.
Right, right,
But
right. Won't that like if they
as-
take up that place, won't it like disturb your
yeah, that's what. There are rules. We have some legal guidelines
proceedings?
where we don't allow the individual to do any excavations.
Mm.
It's
Because,
like an organization that you
so they have to collaborate with
Indian,
university or with State Department or some.
any universities and like any institutions.
so
Do you want to
institutions
like any notable
Yes,
ones
because,
that
if
you
they
wanna tell
take the
people?
antique, because possibility. I'm not talking about any individual, but there's a possibility of misuse.
right, right.
That they discover some important objects or antiquities.
Mm-hmm.
What happens to them?
Mm.
So if it is in the custody of university or a State Department or ASI, they are safe.
They're safe
And
and
we have the
they're
resources
in
to
good
study
hands.
them also.
Okay, but okay, and someone who wants to study like any notable institutions and like something that you want to suggest.
Now almost all the universities have archaeology at post graduation level. After that,
Or like somebody wants to go to the source and like I want to like study at the best.
there are very good institutions in India, universities. Then we have this Deccan College Postgraduate Research Institute, Pune. Then after post graduation, you have Institute of Archaeology, New Delhi, which is run by the ASI. There is a 2 years PG diploma. Then of course you can always do PhD or whatever you want. And then you can join either State Department of Archaeology or universities or ASI.
Okay. We have Vandit has already sent in questions, so I'm slowly. So he wanted to ask: is there any modern civilization which is similar to an older one? Like there's any more similar to what we are more in harmonious probably with an older one? Is there anything that crosses your mind?
What do you call centimeter by centimeter we cannot fix, but there are
Hmm.
features
Which
which are still surviving,
Hmm.
like town planning, art forms. And if you go to Orissa and all, even now in villages, they copy the paintings of rock art, the designs, the dancing forms. They copy and paint it during the festival season on their walls in villages.
Uh-huh.
The designs, rangoli patterns are copied.
Oh, right.
So I won't call it copied. It is influence.
Influence.
Or, passed down from generation to
Right,
generation.
right,
Like
right.
this lot of features which are survived even now. So that's what they say. No culture dies. They
Right.
survives in some form or
Some
the
form.
other. The
Right.
swastika design,
Huh.
for example, is found in the Harappan period. So it has survived more than 4,000,
Copyright.
5,000 years.
Nazi.
Passed on from. It is not our discovery or something. So it's in some form it has survived.
Some designer would have picked it. Graphic designer.
So no culture dies. It survives in
Hmm.
some form. So we call it ethnoarchaeology.
Okay.
So what is the feature now?
People
In what
have-
form it is survived, and we take it back to the historical or a prehistoric period. So we link it from this modern feature has come down from this. That's called traditions. What is the tradition now?
Right. What about movies? Do you think
They
Indiana
portray-
Jones and
they portray a real
Mummy, and do you think is that you look at it and like, this is scam. This is like this is nowhere real. These guys are just. I mean, as
think
much as it is meant
there
for
are very
entertainment.
few movies.
But do you think any movie that like particularly
No, I don't think they always cinematized.
cinematized that
There are a
thing?
lot of historical.
It's only
movies.
adventure.
A lot of historical movies I have seen.
But do you think is it a good thing? In a way, people get like very like
For a
enamored by
For
history
a
and,
common man,
Hmm.
there is some sort of awareness
awareness,
created about
and I feel
historical
that's
period
like good.
and
Yeah.
all that. But we know it. Of course, we cannot blame them. They cannot.
Yeah, it's part of
follow
the
and
trade.
part of the trade. They have cinematography and cinematize the whole thing, and so the commercial angle is always there. So
Angle, and for someone who's for a kid, for someone who's looking
Yeah.
at it, it's
So
almost
they'll
it's so
be
much.
inspired
When we were
by-
kids, we were looking at watching Mummy movie and all. It was like wow, like this. Like it's a whole new backdrop and whole, and they as an artist they take that whole idea as to what it is to be like thousands of years back.
exaggeration is always there.
Is always there. That's-
I would like to ask you about the different wings of archaeology.
There is a prehistory branch, prehistory studies. Then you have the historical archaeology. Then you have, in ASI we have the museums. We have separate division for museum. Then we have the science branch, which preserves through chemical, method. They use the chemicals and to preserve them. They also help us in dating any object. Preservation of antiquities like copper coins or gold objects or paintings. They help us. And we have I'm talking about ASI, not archaeological studies. I will come to that also. Then we have this horticulture branch for any development of gardens or all in the monuments. And you ask about the archaeological studies, you have this prehistoric studies, you have rock art studies, you have historical archaeology. There are many people who specialize in temple architecture. They specialize in museum organizations. There are people who specialize in epigraphy. Epigraphy is study of inscriptions, evolution of script. And there are people who specialize in numismatics, that is
Coins.
study of coins. So a lot of field is there within archaeology.
Right.
So where does marine archaeology fit in?
Marine archaeology again is a branch of archaeology, but it's not well developed. There is one wing in ASI itself, but we are not doing much work on that front. And the National Institute of Oceanography, Goa, they have got a wing, marine archaeology wing.
Okay.
They are doing, every year they do some field work.
Swimming.
Diving.
Diving.
So these are the two. I would rather say only one. The National Institute of Oceanography is actually involved in
Leading
doing
the-
some research.
Right. So I wanted to say, what about anything you'd want to say to a normal man as an archaeologist, like to pique their interest? As I know it's just like a general question, but like I want you to like to be able to speak to them to say you can view the world a bit differently if you study history. And as the saying goes, like the one who doesn't study history is doomed to repeat it. I guess that's the saying. Like how the importance of history. And you want to say anything in terms of that?
You see, they say, you tell me your friends, I'll tell about you.
Yeah.
So I'll rather modify it and say, you tell about your ancestors, I'll tell about you.
Right. Definitely.
You see, even if you anybody, what he is today is because of our ancestors, because of
Standing
our
on the
ancestors.
shoulders of giants.
What is my father? What is my grandfather or great grandfather? That's part of my history. So, to understand anything, you have to go back and see the history of that person. So now here we are looking at the history of a society. What we are today is evolution of this society over a period of thousands of years. In India, we are proud of our history because we have such a outstanding, I would rather say, in every aspect, whether it is social history, economic history, cultural history. So Indian society is respected today all over the country mainly because of our heritage. Whether it is anything, whether it's social, economic, cultural, anything. So we should respect our history. Without that, we are nothing. If I am say I am so and so, nobody is going to respect me.
Definitely. So any books that you've been reading, or any authors that you'd want people to pick up on, anything like that?
Say if anybody who studies history will start with Sankhaliya's.
Okay, who's
Sankhaliya was a great scholar who was worked on prehistory.
Sankhaliya, guys, note it down.
Sankhaliya is there. Then British period only, a lot of temple architecture they have studied. Schulz is there.
Who?
Schulz. Percy Brown. And Robert Brusford.
As you mentioned. Yes.
So Kemide.
Okay.
A lot of people. And then when we came into the picture, the Indians, people like Krishnadeva, K.V. Soundararajan, Sivaramamurthy.
Okay.
So a lot of books are there. And of late, you say Dr. Rajan has done a lot of work, Poshal has done a lot of work, and J.P. Joshi on Harappan architecture, Harappan civilization. So a lot of, these are the source material you have to study.
Right. Interesting. I think that's interesting. Any, to wrap things up, any comments on UFOs, aliens? Like these are like questions that I did get asked. So like, I want to. Is there any?
No comments on UFO.
No comments. But because there was a recent video of people. Somebody released this video of the US government did release a video of a UFO apparently.
No, but in archaeological, any field, whether it is sculptures or temple representations on these old structures, nothing has been related to UFO or something. But there are some foreign figures which are represented on temples. Like in Tanjavur temple, one figure is represented. It looks like a Chinese. But we have not identified why it is shown on the Vimana. There is no other reference whether any Chinese came there or something. This kind of
Vimanas, like, do you want to?
Vimanas are the superstructure.
I've heard a lot of.
Vimana is an architectural term, a superstructure over the Garbhagraha. Sanctum.
Does it
nothing like
signify a Vimana?
No, nothing to do
because
with
somewhere I was reading Mr. Abdul Kalam's biography. In that he was like particularly interested in like Vimana, and he tried to like have his own hovercraft. I think
Vimana is over aircraft, but we call this Vimanam in Sanskrit. It's Vimana. It's only a superstructure over the Garbhagraha of it. In South, that is Dravidian. We call it. There are three types of architecture, temple architecture. One form is the Dravidian temple architecture. In that, superstructure over the Garbhagraha is called Vimana.
Okay.
And the other forms of temple architecture, the superstructure over the Garbhagriha is called Shikara.
Shikara. Right. And okay, like I think we can wrap this up. Like, what about Bangalore? You think any old place that?
No, Bangalore itself, there is one Mr. Aruni who is doing a
Uh-huh.
lot of research on
Okay.
history of Bangalore.
Okay.
He has identified a lot of inscriptions
Yeah.
and cannons he has found.
Uh-huh.
And
Right. Yeah.
and we have a lot of ancient places like Tipu Palace,
Huh.
and you have got a fort, Bangalore Fort.
Right.
In north and south of Bangalore, you have got some megalithic sites. Of course, they are all now gone.
What about
because
Devarayan
of-
Durga, Chandrayan Durga?
So you have this Devanahalli.
Ah.
So you have got important sites, but
What
main
was the one which we climbed the other day? You and me
Siddhara
were-
Betta.
It was an archaeological thing. No? When we got down, we saw an ASI.
That was
Nandi?
Madhugiri.
Madhugiri.
Madhugiri
Yeah.
Betta. That was the
Ma-
second largest monolith in Asia.
So there is Nandi Hills.
Hmm.
There is some.
So these are like very generally people
Generally
have been through it. So
Bangalore
like
Fort,
Bangalore Fort.
where there is medical college, and
Hmm.
so. But of course, as the city expands, some sites are lost.
Lost.
So this we can't avoid a part of the
Hmm.
urbanization.
Right. So I think that's that. I hope everybody who's listening, I hope we've given something for you guys to listen to, because like it's been really interesting for me to sit back and listen, and to like I'd probably listen to this again just to like get an overview of like everything that he spoke about. And I'm really glad that Uncle could make a come over for this podcast, and like like tell us young people like a bit about his field, and like and that's what we sort of aim to do at our Bangalore podcast, just to get people over, interesting people over, and like people who are in their field, people who are looking at the world in a different way, in a different in a way that like it's inspiring, and it's very interesting. And I think I'm this is a good session. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and thank you for coming over, Uncle.
Thank
It's
you.
been a pleasure.
Thank you, Sakshat.
Yes.
I also enjoyed talking to you.
Yeah, definitely.
Bye.
Probably, if you guys have any specific questions, anything, and if you want to like, you can probably reach me and Akshat up. Like,
Sure.
Uncle can clear your doubts.
Sure.
Yeah. So okay, guys, that's the wrap of another episode.
Check us out on YouTube at The Bangalore Podcast,
YouTube, Facebook,
Facebook at The Bangalore Podcast. You can
IG.
follow Mr. Nambirajan at Facebook.
and Facebook. Yes.
Yes, you can hit him up for any
Yeah.
questions
Any
if you have
messages,
anything.
anything that you have, any queries that you have. I think it's been a brilliant episode. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
See you.
See you.